All right. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for me because the learning how to navigate around Maya, learning how to model primitives, learning how to label them, how to work in hierarchy, how to set them up and parent them with our hierarchy, is now paying off because you're going to model. I mean, you're going to animate and do your um, first motion of animation. So this won't be a full animation right now. I'm just going to talk about how to make these limbs move. And so we'll just do a few limbs moving and I'll do some more videos to show some more animation. So I have this beautiful timeline. And one of the great things about Maya is a very sophisticated piece of software. And you can do quite a bit with it. Modeling, animation effects, texturing, and all lighting and controlling your cameras, all kinds of stuff. So I wanted to show you this. As a way of kind of getting us started in animation. So we have our timeline here. And this timeline, I'm going to bring this up a little bit so I can see it a little bit better, has quite a bit, but we see all the numbers it has. And this timeline just keeps on going. We have 24 frames per second, which is good. We have our slider here, which is showing us the timeline from frame 1 to frame 120. But if I wanted to elongate it, I could bring this slider all the way to 200. Now I could add more frames here or take away frames. So if I click on that 2 and change it to a 3 and hit return, all of a sudden I have an animation that can go 300 keyframes long. Let's say I didn't think I needed that many, so I'm going to switch this to 10. Then I have a smaller timeline, right? So you can extend your timeline this way. But for now, let's say I'll keep it at 120. Now, frames per second, in this case, 24 frames, it means that every 24 seconds, every second, you are seeing 24 frames per second, frames per second, FPS. So that means in 1 second, you will have been watching 24 frames. Now, remember, that is very important from the perspective of persistence of vision. Persistence of vision is a phenomenon that it's a great phenomenon that sort of tricks our eye. If we're watching a sequential series of images at a rapid pace, our eye believes that we're seeing a moving image, even though our brain knows you're just showing me a series of sequential images rapidly. Okay, in this case, we are setting this animation to show the viewer rapidly 24 frames per second, so that there will be a series of sequential images being shown rapidly, 24 per second, so that our eye will believe that it's moving. So that's what we're getting ready to do. Now, my frames, my timeline is here. I see all my frames. I know that I'm doing 24 frames per second, and I am clicking on animation preference so I can see what's going on here. And I'm just looking at the different preferences I have control over that I can change and edit and move. It's telling me that it's going to be looping. It's going to maximum speed or free. I want to make sure that it's playing every frame, or to play 24 frames per second. I don't want it to play every frame that way. I want it to play 24 frames per second. And I have to test that out and see because it's a new selection now in Maya. So I want to make sure I have to check that, make sure that I'm doing that right. And so usually I believe play every frame is for effects more than character animation, but we'll find that out together. Okay, so I have this, and I have my robot in its default mode. Two very important questions that you want to ask yourself before you start animating particular sections or segments is, what do I want to have happen and for how long? And I'm going to do something simple for our first animation. I'm just going to make the robot's right arm come from this angle, which is 90 degrees, to come down to the thigh. And so that's the right, and you'll see in here in the hierarchy or in the outliner, me getting ready to do that. So I have the shoulder selected, the shoulder joint selected, and I'm on keyframe or frame 1, and I'm going to hit S. Now, when I hit S, see how that red line comes in? That's a set key. I'll also see it in my channels that I have set my first keyframe. Okay? In order to see something animated, you're probably going to need at least 2 keyframes. And I've said I want this shoulder to move from here to here. And then the question is, well, how long do I want that to take? I know that there's 24 frames per second. And I'm just going to land on, I want it to take 10 frames to do so. Now, once I have that line, that red line there, that's no longer just a frame. It's now a keyframe. And I'm going to key the 10 frame now. In order to do that, I have it selected, right? So I clicked on it. I've already clicked on my shoulder. Then I clicked on my frame 10. Then I'm going to get the rotation tool and rotate it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that because I want it to move along the Z. Okay. And what I'll do also, because I'm looking here, I'm going to change that to just 72. And I'm going to hit S, set key. Okay. So now my first animation, and I didn't have to click on those numbers. That was my choice. You don't have to do that. That's my first animation here. So that's what I did first. And now I'm going to have my other arm come down, right? So I'm on 10, and now I'm going to think, do I want to pause, or do I want which thing do I want? Do I want both arms to come down at the same time? Do I want one arm to come down and then the other arm to come down? Do I want to pause between the arms coming down? So there's some things I want to think about for a second before I do it. I think in my case, to show you, it's probably best to show you them happening at the same time, because what I want you to notice is the timeline right now. We see these 2 key frames in red, right? But the reason why you're seeing them right now is because I have animated, but in particular animated the shoulder, and I'm selecting the shoulder now, the right shoulder. If I switch and change and select the left shoulder, see how those are gone? That animation is only happening to the right shoulder, which is why you see that. And that's why it's so important that you select the thing you actually want to animate, because you're telling Maya, that's what I want you to key, right? And that's why nothing else moved. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do my left shoulder, and I'm going to do it at the same time as my right, as my right shoulder. So they will animate at the same time, because I want you to see how the keyframes are actually on top of each other, or actually you have to click on both to see them at the same time if you want to see them. So together. So I'm on keyframe, I'm on frame 1. I'm on my left shoulder. So notice that I clicked on the left shoulder first, and then I select the keyframe or the frame. Now I am going to hit S on my keyboard, and that has keyed the first frame for my left shoulder. So we see that red, and we see the red on the channel and on the frame. So now that 1 is keyframed on my left shoulder. I'm going to go to frame 10. See how my arm is down on my right side? Well, using my shoulder joint on my left side, I'm going to bring this down too. And remember, I was paying attention that it's 72. The reason why I did that, because I wanted it to be symmetric, so that I could just click here, and it's going to be negative 72, and hit return, and then hit S. So see how now my left shoulder is keyed. I want to show you something just to remind you. If I click on my elbow, see how the elbow is not animated? There's no keyframe there, because the parent, which is the left shoulder, is moving all of that. Okay, so now when I go back to the beginning, see how both arms go up, and then they both go down at the same time. Okay, so one is on top of the other. Now it gets, well, this isn't really that tricky. If you're going to animate the shoulder, animate the shoulder. If you're going to animate, if you're going to animate the left shoulder, animate the left shoulder. If you're going to animate the right shoulder, animate the right shoulder. You can, it's best at this point to do them one at a time. Okay. And notice nothing else is really animated here. Okay. Now, if I didn't like something, like let's say I animated it and I put it on the wrong frame. If I want to delete this keyframe, I can. I just select it like I am. I'm right on top of number 10. Remember, I have the object selected. I have to do that first. Select the object, which is the right shoulder. And then on the keyframe, I select it, and then I right click on top of it, and I can say delete. And notice some of the really wonderful other things you can do, which we'll talk about hopefully, but on your timeline. But for now, if I wanted to delete that, I could go delete, and see how it goes back up to that default pose, because I don't have anything animated there. So I'm going to undo that. Actually, I don't even know if I can undo that. Let me go. Yeah, so I'm gonna actually go ahead and animate that again. So again, I select my joint. In this case, it's the right shoulder joint. I select the keyframe, and then I rotate it, or do the action. In this case, it was a rotation. And remember, I wanted it at 72. And again, you don't have to plug in the numbers unless you want to. I'm going to hit S for keyframe. And so that animation is back in place. Okay. So if you have done this with me, you should congratulate yourself, because you have done maybe your first 3D animation. And again, you have to sort of do the simple to get to the complex. Okay. And animating in Maya is not easy. Modeling in Maya is not easy. And this is the beginning. And of course, I enjoy this step. But even as you get to more difficult steps, enjoy this, because there's so much complexity that you can do with just what you've learned. If you don't learn anything else in Maya, you can do an animation now. Okay. And you can get as complex as your imagination is. Yes, you can ultimately learn how to click all these buttons and how to do all of these things, but think about your creativity and how you can use what you know already to be creative. Okay, I'm gonna do the upper body. I'm gonna have the waist one move and bow. Okay, and so I think what I'll do is have the arms go down and the bow happen at the same time. So again, I select the joint, which is waist one. I click on the keyframe that I want to animate, and it's one. So I'm going to hit S, and then I'm going to go to frame 10. I'm just thinking that maybe, let's see. Let's keep frame 10 with the waist just the way it is. So it's going to hold it there. And then on 15, let's have the waist bow. Yes. So that way we have this happen and then the bow happens afterwards. Okay. So there's tons more things. I'm going to hit play. There's tons more things we can have happen, but let's take it one step at a time. Okay. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to save all of this. And I might actually put that video on before this one, just so that, and God forbid you did any of this and lost it. So the next video I'll do is for save. I hope you've enjoyed this one and look forward to you watching another one.